The envelope sat on my kitchen counter like an accusation. Cream-colored, expensive paper, my mother's looping handwriting across the front. For Emma, I'd found it tucked into my mailbox that morning, no postage, which meant one of them had driven the 40 minutes from their house to mine, just to avoid a conversation. I knew what was inside before I opened it. The same thing that had been inside the last three envelopes. A check for $200 and a note that somehow managed to be both brief and cutting. Emma, hope this helps. We know things have been difficult for you. Love, Mom and Dad. $200. The same amount they'd been sending monthly since I'd lost my job at the marketing firm 18 months ago. $200 while I worked 60-hour weeks between two part-time positions, trying to keep my mortgage paid and my 10-year-old sedan running. $200 that felt less like help and more like evidence of my inadequacy, carefully documented and filed away. I didn't open this one. According to YouTube analytics, 99% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Instead, I made coffee and sat at my small kitchen table, looking out at the garden I'd planted in my postage stamp backyard. Tomatoes were ripening on the vine. The basil had gone wild. Small victories in a year that had felt like a series of calculated defeats. My phone buzzed. A text from my younger brother, Tyler. Closing on the house today. Can't believe Mom and Dad came through like that. You should come see it once we're moved in. I stared at the message, reading it 3 times to make sure I'd understood correctly. Then I called him. What's up? Tyler's voice was buoyant, celebrating. What house? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. The house. Didn't Mom tell you? Jessica and I found this amazing place in Westbrook. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, huge yard for the kids. We were short on the down payment, and Mom and Dad they gave us the money. $230,000, Emma. Can you believe it? They said they wanted to see us settled. That family is what matters most. The kitchen tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of the table. $230,000. I know, right? We're so lucky. Jessica's already planning the nursery for number 3. He laughed, oblivious. Hey, you okay? You sound weird. I'm fine, I lied. Congratulations, Ty. That's really something. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my kitchen and did the math. $200 a month for 18 months. $3,600 total, given reluctantly with commentary, versus $230,000, given freely with celebration. I wasn't angry yet. I was somewhere beyond anger, in a place where the numbers spoke for themselves, where the conclusion was so obvious it didn't need to be stated. I was worth less, quantifiably, measurably less. The family dinner that Sunday was Tyler's idea, a celebration of the new house. I almost didn't go, but there was a part of me, the part that had spent 34 years trying to earn my parents' approval, that needed to hear them say it out loud, needed to understand what I'd done to deserve this mathematics of love. My parents' house in Maple Ridge looked exactly as it always had. Pristine lawn, expensive cars in the driveway, the kind of home that appeared in real estate listings with words like executive and prestigious. I'd grown up here, in this monument to success, always aware that I was supposed to become someone worthy of it. Tyler and his wife Jessica were already there, along with their 2 children, Madison, 7, and Connor, 5. The kids ran to hug me, and I held them tight, grateful for their uncomplicated affection. Emma, my mother emerged from the house, wearing white linen and her careful smile. We weren't sure you'd make it. I know how busy you are with your jobs. The pause before jobs was deliberate, a tiny blade inserted between the ribs. Wouldn't miss it, I said, following her inside. Dinner was catered. My mother didn't cook for family gatherings anymore, hadn't for years. We sat around the dining room table, on chairs that cost more than my monthly car payment, and ate salmon with dill sauce while my father held court about market trends and investment opportunities. Tyler, you and Jessica did well getting into Westbrook now, he said, cutting his fish with surgical precision. Property values are only going up. In 5 years, that house will be worth double what you paid. Thanks to you guys, Tyler said, raising his wine glass. Seriously, we can never thank you enough. My mother beamed. That's what parents do. We invest in our children's futures. I set down my fork carefully. All of them? The table went quiet. I'm sorry. My mother's smile remained fixed, but her eyes cooled. You invest in all of your children's futures, I said. That's what you meant, right? My father shifted in his seat. Emma, if this is about the loan we gave Tyler, not a loan, I interrupted quietly. A gift. $230,000. That's what Tyler said. Tyler looked between us, understanding dawning on his face. Oh, Em, I thought they'd told you. Why would we need to discuss our financial decisions with you? My mother's voice could have frozen water. Tyler and Jessica are building a life. They have children. They needed help, and we were in a position to provide it. And I don't need help? The question came out softer than I intended. I've been working 2 jobs for 18 months. I lost my career. I've been struggling to keep my house, to pay my bills, to just survive. And you give me $200 a month like it's charity, while you hand Tyler enough money to buy a house outright. That's different, my father said flatly. Tyler has responsibilities, a family, he's building something. And what am I building? Emma. My mother's voice was sharp now, the pretense of warmth abandoned. Let's be honest, you're 34 years old. You've had every advantage we could give you, the best schools, connections, opportunities. And what have you done with them? You got a degree in English literature, of all impractical things. You worked at a marketing firm that went under, that I didn't cause to go under, I interjected. And now you're working retail and waiting tables, living in a starter home you can barely afford, with no husband, no children, no real prospects. When exactly were you planning to make something of yourself? The words landed like physical blows. Madison and Connor had gone silent, watching with wide eyes. Jessica was studying her plate intently. Tyler opened his mouth, closed it again. Meanwhile, my mother continued, Tyler graduated with a business degree, married a lovely woman, gave us grandchildren, and built a successful career in finance. He's proven himself. He's shown us he knows how to manage money, how to build a future. Why would we entrust $250,000 to someone who can't even maintain stable employment? I stood up slowly. My hands were shaking, so I pressed them flat against the table. I see. Emma, don't be dramatic, my father said. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. You've told me exactly what you think of me, and I appreciate the honesty. I won't waste any more of your time. I looked at Tyler. Congratulations on your house. I mean that. You're a good father and a good husband, and you deserve good things. Emma, wait. Tyler started to rise. No, it's fine, really. I grabbed my purse. Enjoy your dinner. I made it to my car before the tears came. I sat in their driveway, in the vehicle they'd called a used clunker when I'd bought it, and cried until my chest hurt. Not because of the money, though the money stung, but because of what it represented. The final, definitive proof that I was, in their eyes, a failure, not worth investing in, not worth the same love they showered on my brother. I'd always known I was less favored. Tyler was the golden child, the one who checked every box, who made them proud at dinner parties and family gatherings. But I'd hoped, that I still mattered, that my worth wasn't purely transactional. Now I knew better. I drove home through blurred vision and let myself into my small, mortgaged house. The house I'd bought with my own money, my own down payment, my own grit and determination. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I didn't call them, didn't text, didn't send back their next check when it arrived. I simply withdrew. From family dinners, from holiday celebrations, from the elaborate dance of trying to win approval that would never come. It hurt. God, it hurt. But it hurt less than staying. Tyler called a few times. I kept it brief, polite. No, I wasn't mad at him. Yes, I hoped they'd be happy in the new house. No, I couldn't make it to their housewarming party. I had to work. I always had to work. The months crawled by. I took a third part-time job, freelance copywriting in the evenings, slept 5 hours a night, survived on coffee and stubbornness. My garden thrived. I couldn't. But I paid my mortgage. I kept my head above water. I proved to myself, if no one else, that I could make it without their help, without their approval, without their love. And then, 11 months after that dinner, my phone rang at 2 a.m. It was Tyler, and he was crying. Emma, I'm sorry. I know it's late. I didn't know who else to call. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. What's wrong? Are the kids okay? The kids are fine. We're fine. We're ruined, Em. We're completely ruined. The story came out in fragments. Tyler's firm had been involved in something illegal, securities fraud, insider trading. He wasn't entirely clear because he claimed not to have known, but he'd been implicated. Charges were being filed. He'd been fired immediately. Jessica was 6 months pregnant with their third child, and they had no income, no health insurance, and legal bills that were already catastrophic. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. That's terrible, Ty. What are you going to do? I don't know. I thought, Mom and Dad, they'll help us, right? They have to help us. I didn't answer that. I'd learned better. Could you maybe talk to them? They'll listen to you. I almost laughed. Tyler, they think I'm a failure. Why would they listen to me? Please, Em, I'm desperate here. I agreed to try, knowing it was futile. But he was my brother, and despite everything, I loved him. I called my parents the next morning. My father answered. Emma, this is unexpected. I heard about Tyler. I wanted to. Tyler made his choices. He'll have to face the consequence. I blinked. What? You heard me. We raised him to have integrity, to make good decisions. If he chose to involve himself in something criminal, that's his failure, not ours. Dad, he has 2 kids and a pregnant wife. He needs help. He received help. $230,000 of help, which is apparently gone now, spent on furniture and cars and God knows what else. We're not a bottomless well, Emma. But this conversation is over. We're very disappointed in Tyler. We expected better from him. He hung up. I sat holding my phone, processing. Then I called Tyler back and told him as gently as I could. His breakdown was devastating to witness, even secondhand through a phone. But there was something else in his voice, too. Disbelief. Shock that the parents who'd always supported him, always believed in him, had cut him off the moment he truly needed them. Welcome to the club, I thought, but didn't say. What I did say was, what do you need, Ty? What can I actually help with? We started small. I connected him with a friend who did family law, who reviewed their situation pro bono. I helped Jessica apply for state health insurance for the pregnancy. When they fell behind on their first mortgage payment on the dream house, I sent them $500 I couldn't afford. When they fell behind on the second, I sent another $300. I didn't tell them I was eating ramen and peanut butter to afford it. Didn't mention that I'd sold my laptop and was using the library computers for my freelance work. They were drowning, and I could either help or watch them go under. Tyler's case took months to unfold. In the end, he wasn't charged. He genuinely hadn't known what his superiors were doing. But his career in finance was over. No firm would touch him. He ended up taking a job as an assistant manager at a sporting goods store, making a third of his former salary. They lost the house. Of course they lost the house. They moved into a small rental, filed for bankruptcy, and learned what it meant to worry about money. Really worry. And my parents? Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Tyler called them weekly for a month. They never answered. He showed up at their house once. They wouldn't open the door. It was as if he'd ceased to exist the moment he'd stopped being successful. I don't understand, he told me one night, his voice broken. I'm still their son. Madison and Connor are still their grandchildren. How can they just erase us? I wanted to tell him I understood exactly how they could do it. That love for our parents had always been conditional, transactional, based not on who we were, but on what we achieved, how we made them look, whether we justified their investment. But he was learning that himself, painfully, day by day. 18 months after Tyler's fall, I got a promotion. My freelance copywriting had led to a full-time position with a marketing agency. Not the same level I'd been at before, but stable, with benefits, with a future. I was able to quit the retail job, then the waitressing. I could breathe again. I celebrated by buying Tyler's family groceries and taking myself to a movie. Then, 2 years and 3 months after that dinner, where my mother had called me a failure, my phone rang. An unknown number. Emma Hartwell? This is Patricia Chen from Mercy General Hospital. Your mother, Catherine Hartwell, has listed you as her emergency contact. She's been admitted with a stroke. She's asking for you. The drive to the hospital felt surreal. I hadn't spoken to my mother in over 2 years, Hadn't spoken to my father in almost as long. I had no idea why I was listed as the emergency contact or why she was asking for me now. She looked small in the hospital bed, diminished. The stroke had affected her left side. Her face drooped slightly. My father sat beside her, looking older than I remembered, his expensive suit rumpled. Emma! My mother's speech was slurred but understandable. You came. Of course I came. I stood at the foot of the bed, maintaining distance. My father cleared his throat. The doctors say she'll recover. Mostly. She'll need therapy, assistance for a while. We've contacted care agencies, but the good ones have waiting lists, and the costs. He trailed off. I waited. We need help, he said finally, the words clearly painful. We need family. The irony was so sharp it could cut. Did you call Tyler? My mother's expression hardened, even with half her face drooping. Tyler is not welcome. He humiliated this family, got himself involved in criminal activity. He wasn't charged with anything. He didn't know what was happening. He should have known. He should have been smarter. We didn't raise him to be naive. I looked at my father. And you? You feel the same way? He nodded stiffly. Tyler made his choices. We've made ours. I see. I took a breath. And what about me? The failure? The one with no prospects, no husband, no children, nothing to show for all your investment. My mother's working eye flashed. Emma, this is hardly the time. No, I think it's exactly the time. You need help. You need family. The same family you discarded the moment we weren't successful enough, rich enough, perfect enough for you. I felt calm, eerily calm. Tyler calls you every Christmas. Did you know that? You never answer, but he calls. His kids ask about you. Madison made you a birthday card this year. You never saw it because Tyler didn't know where to send it. That's different, my father said. Tyler made a mistake, had bad luck. Circumstances beyond his control derailed his career. Sound familiar? I let that sink in. When I lost my job, you decided I was worthless. You gave me pity money while you gave him a fortune. You told me I'd wasted your investment, that I had nothing to show for my life. And the second things got hard, you cut me off completely. We never cut you off, my mother protested weakly. You did. Maybe not with money. You kept sending those checks like guilt payments. But emotionally, spiritually, you wrote me off years ago. I was never good enough, never successful enough, never the child you wanted. I surprised myself with my next words. But I survived anyway. I built a life. Not a big life, not a rich life, but a life I'm proud of. I did it without your help, without your approval, and somehow I'm still standing. My father stood up. If you've just come here to lecture us, I came because you called, because despite everything, you're still my parents. But I'm not staying to be your caretaker, your nurse, your solution to a problem. You have money. Use it to hire help. You have each other. Figure it out together. I walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I hope you recover fully, Mom. I really do. And I hope someday you'll realize that Tyler and I, we're not investments that paid off or failed. We're people. Your children. We always were. I left before they could respond. Outside, in my car, I called Tyler. Hey, Mom had a stroke. She's going to be okay, but she and Dad are looking for help. I thought you should know. Should I go see her? His voice was tentative, hopeful despite everything. That's up to you. But Ty, don't expect anything. Don't hope for reconciliation or apologies or sudden changes of heart. If you go, go because it's what you need, not because you think it'll fix things. Did you stay? No. Good, he said quietly. Good for you, Em. I heard through the family grapevine, a cousin I still spoke to, that my parents eventually hired a home care nurse, an expensive one. They managed because they'd always managed. Money could solve most problems after all. My mother recovered mostly. They downsized to a smaller house, sold some investments. They were fine. They never called me again, never called Tyler either. And slowly, painfully, I realized that was okay. That some relationships are toxic not because of dramatic blow-ups, but because of consistent, grinding diminishment. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who only love you conditionally. Tyler and I grew closer. I became a real aunt to his kids, not just a name they heard at holidays. I helped him study for his real estate license. He decided on a career change, and celebrated when he passed on the first try. When Jessica had their third child, a daughter they named Emily, I cried. "We wanted to honor you," Tyler said. "You were there when no one else was. You're the family that mattered." 3 years after my mother's stroke, I got a wedding invitation. Tyler was not getting remarried. He and Jessica were fine. It took me a moment to recognize the names on the elegant cardstock. It was from my parents' neighbors, the Caldwells. Their daughter was getting married. I'd babysit her once, years ago. I barely knew these people. Inside was a note. "Emma, we weren't sure if you'd heard. Your parents are moving to Arizona for health reasons. They're having an estate sale next month. We thought you might want to know in case there's anything you'd like from the house." I didn't go to the estate sale. Didn't want anything from that house, that museum of impossible standards and conditional love. But Tyler went, out of curiosity more than anything. He called me afterward. "You know what's funny? They're selling everything. All the expensive furniture, the art, the china that was supposedly priceless family heirlooms. Everything." Why is that funny? Because according to the estate sale people, they have to. They need the money. Apparently, Dad made some bad investments, lost a lot. And between Mom's medical bills and just living, they've burned through most of their savings. They're moving to Arizona because it's cheaper. They're not going to some luxury retirement community. They're going to a regular apartment in Phoenix. I absorbed this silently. The house they gave us money for, it's worth less now than when we bought it. Market crashed in that area. If they'd kept that money, invested it properly, they'd be fine. But they gave it to me, I lost it all. And now? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Karma's funny, isn't it?" "I don't know if it's karma," I said. "It's just life. Money runs out, investments fail, health fails. In the end, the only thing that matters is the people who actually love you. And they have no one. They have each other. Do they, though?" I heard them fighting at the estate sale, Dad blaming Mom for insisting on the expensive care nurse, Mom blaming Dad for the bad investments. They were vicious, like they hated each other. I felt a wave of sadness, not for what they'd lost, but for what they'd never had. They'd built a life on money and status and achievement, and now that those things were crumbling, there was nothing underneath. No foundation of real love, real connection, real family. 5 years after that dinner, where I was called a failure, I got promoted to creative director. I bought a new car, nothing fancy, but new and mine. I started dating someone kind, a teacher named Marcus, who thought my garden was beautiful and my career was impressive, and my family situation was their loss, not yours. Tyler's real estate career took off. Not spectacularly, but steadily. He was good at it, patient and honest, and people trusted him. They kept the rental, saved carefully, and started planning for maybe, eventually, another house. A smaller one this time, one they could actually afford. We had dinner together once a month, our families, in backyards and small dining rooms. We celebrated birthdays and graduations and ordinary Tuesdays. We built something our parents never had. A family based on showing up, not on achievement. On love without price tags. I heard through my cousin that my parents' marriage finally fell apart in Arizona, that my father moved to a retirement home, and my mother went to live with her sister in Florida, that they barely spoke to each other, and never spoke of their children at all, as if we'd never existed. And I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, not even sadness anymore, just nothing. They'd made themselves irrelevant through their own choices, and I'd moved on. 7 years after that dinner, I married Marcus in my garden, surrounded by tomatoes and basil and people who loved me for exactly who I was. Tyler walked me down the aisle. His kids were in the wedding party. My parents weren't invited, and their absence was noted by no one except my cousin, who whispered, "Good for you." On my wedding night, in the small house I'd fought so hard to keep, Marcus asked me if I ever regretted cutting my parents out. "No," I said, and meant it. They cut themselves out. They chose money over people, status over love, conditions over connection. And in the end, they lost everything that mattered and kept only the things that didn't. Do you think they realize that? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. I looked at my wedding ring, simple gold, paid for by a man who loved me. But I realized something they never will. I didn't fail. I survived. I built a life worth living, with people worth loving. And I did it without their approval, or their money, or their conditional affection. That's not failure. That's triumph. Marcus kissed me. Damn right it is. And somewhere in Arizona or Florida or wherever they were, my parents were learning what I'd always known, that money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy back the family you discard. That investments fail, bodies fail, status fades, and in the end, the only thing that matters is who you loved and who loved you back. They'd chosen to measure love in dollars and achievements. They'd weighed their children on scales of success and found one wanting. And now, in their old age, separated and bitter and alone, they were discovering the cost of that choice. I didn't wish them ill. I didn't wish them anything at all. I simply lived my life, loved my people, tended my garden, and let karma do what karma does. Not punish, not avenge, but simply reveal the natural consequences of our choices. Some call it justice, some call it fate. I call it freedom. The freedom that comes from realizing that you don't need the approval of people who never knew how to love you, and that the best revenge is building a life so full of genuine love and joy that their absence becomes irrelevant. My parents gave my brother $230,000 and called me a failure. And in doing so, they freed me to become exactly who I was meant to be. Not perfect, not wealthy, not impressive by their standards, but happy, genuinely, completely happy. And that, in the end, was worth more than any amount of money they could have given me.